Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
Good morning, friends. So just a little heads up, this episode is going to be a little wonky and disjointed because this is the episode that we recorded and I got in trouble very kindly. Actually, Bethany was always too kind as usual, but luckily I know her well enough I can read between the lines. Where, if y'all remember a few weeks ago, we didn't have an episode like randomly. It was just this Monday with nothing. I'm like, what are you doing? Did your computer stop working? The fans are waiting. I'm waiting for the podcast. And turns out that I said some stuff that was maybe not the most polished. Imagine that. And yet every other episode has made it online, on air, whatever. But whatever. Bethany, watching out for me, was like, maybe this isn't the best for us to put out. And I was like, what do I do? I still don't know, y'all. I haven't heard it back. Whatever just tumbles out of my mouth. So whatever. Luckily, she's got my back and going, maybe we should pause this. But my concern was the examples we gave that were not my talking. They were Bethany's examples. She had a lot of good examples and tips in that, so we didn't want to lose that. So basically what we're doing in this episode is taking me out and my example and saving the other two and kind of just splicing together. So it is going to be a little disjointed. Appreciate your patience with that, and no apologies. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. How are you?
Good. So we've had some good introspective podcasts topics recently, like, how do I get myself out of a rut? How do I organize myself? All of that stuff, which I think is super important, albeit in my mind, kind of boring in that I like the meaty, like, that happened in whose office? She did what? How did he respond? Oh my gosh. Or
you like the drama? Is that what you're saying?
As long as it's not mine. As long as it's not mine.
But it often is yours.
It's always mine. Exactly. So that's why I want to hear about other people's drama. And glad it's not mine. So I kind of wanted to do these little nuggets of things that you deal with. And I think you had a couple of good ones you were mentioning. And I'm like, that's what I want to talk about, because I think we're all in that boat, whether it's that exact scenario, it may not be, but it's a similar scenario. Yeah. And so hopefully we can get some pearls out of that, or if not, at least we can be comrades and go, okay, sorry, man, that sucks for you. Glad it's not my turn this time. And so we can all commiserate with each other.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you kick it off,
okay,
and then let's see where we end up. And then I might have a few to toss back at you. Like, what would you do, Bethany?
Ooh, that's a good idea. So I'll start with what would Kuba do in this situation? So I'll kind of give the highlights of this particular drama. This was like hardcore drama. I feel like we have lots of drama, but this one is just like, boom, straight to the core. In your face.
This is a great episode for a reality TV dental drama. Like, if we had cameras in, this would be one that would be a high rating episode.
This would hit the top of the chart. So I have a great client that reached out to me and said, I need your advice. And basically, his team was going through a pretty stressful time with the hurricane that just recently came through. And for those of y'all that don't know, there was a lot of communication issues as far as like cell phones not working and electricity is out. And it was just, he was having a really hard time getting in touch with his team and trying to figure out what they needed from him as far as, do y'all want to work? Do you need to stay home? Like, what are we going to do? So he called a mandatory team meeting and said, let's huddle and let's reassess what we need to do. Well, one employee let him know right before the team meeting that she would not be able to come to the team meeting. And so he said, we got to have you here in some way. I can Zoom you in. We got to have you here. And so she agreed to Zoom in for the meeting. He basically led the meeting. She came late to the meeting via Zoom, but he led the team in going, "Hey, I'm here to support you guys in what you need. I'm happy to open up the practice and see patients if that's what you guys want and need. If you need to work, let's do it. If you need to stay home, I'm totally fine with that. I just need to know what everybody needs." So it started the team meeting that way and basically was kind of asking everybody, what is your preference? What do you want to do? Well, finally, this lady came in late via Zoom and had kind of missed that whole initial conversation. And so the doctor asked her, "Hey, I'm trying to figure out what people are wanting to do. Do you want to work?" And she took that to be a very offensive question and just went off. Of course, this is via Zoom, but basically went on a rant about how offended she was by that question and just spoke extremely disrespectfully to the doctor. Well, that's a really uncomfortable situation because this is in a team meeting setting. Now, obviously she was on Zoom, but how do you handle that? She's having this emotional outburst in front of everybody, and it's very disrespectful towards the doctor himself. And so basically once she finally, all the hot air came out of the balloon, he was like, "That's not what I was saying at all. I'm just trying to assess what everybody needs. What do you need? If you need to work, you can come in. If you need to stay home, just let me know." "Well, I need to stay home until my electricity comes back on." "That's fine. Let me know when your electricity comes back on and then we'll figure out work schedule at that point." So anyway, obviously a very uncomfortable situation. High tensions. Everybody's tense. The doctor himself has got so much on his plate that he's just been slapped with that he's got to figure out. He's trying to do the best of his ability to take care of his team and the practice for that matter. So anyway, we had a long conversation about this instance, but I would love to hear your perspective on what would you do. And maybe you've been in a situation where you had a team member that spoke very disrespectfully to you or had this really heated moment. What would you do in that scenario?
You know, this reminds me, we always talk about this of like the Office episode where Stanley blows up at Michael and what does he yell at him? Like, "You are the problem and you are whatever." And Michael's stuck there and he's trying to make light of it, but then has to have the talk with Stanley after. So maybe that's what I would do, is play that clip for her and be like, "You can't talk to me that way."
By the way, this is what just happened. You don't know it, but yes.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, no, that sucks, especially when he's trying to be such a nice guy and accommodate.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, what is offensive about that question? But again, we'll never know her mindset. Clearly, it's not in the right place. She's stressed, but highly inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that would really hurt my feelings if I was him, for multiple reasons. But I think for me, I don't know. I think when she shows up back to work, I would be like, "We need to have a talk."
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I don't know if I would arrange to meet her for coffee. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd send you to go talk to her. I don't know, but I think that's where I would have to say, what is it?
What happened? Yeah.
What happened?
What's the problem?
Yeah. And that is unacceptable to talk to me that way
in
front of the team. And I guess if it's, has this happened before?
No. She's never been overtly disrespectful. She is a strong personality that isn't afraid to kind of dish it out, so to speak, but it's done in jest or in kind of a lightheartedness, but I'm going to get some jabs in. It's never been just over, like I'm yelling at the doctor, or overtly speaking disrespectfully to him. So I would say that I wasn't surprised when he called me with this situation. If there was anybody on the team that was going to do this, I knew that it would be her. I was just really disappointed, obviously. And then I feel like he's in a real predicament because you really do have that delicate balance between, I want to extend grace and know that she's been in a really stressful situation, but so has everybody else. This is not unique to just her. Everybody was dealing with the aftermath of that hurricane. And so it would be different if that were a private conversation that happened. Even still, it's not acceptable in any way acceptable. But I think what makes it challenging is it happened in a team setting. And so now as the doctor, there's so many layers you're having to think about. Like, I got to figure out my relationship with this employee and how did this happen? But then also, what am I saying to my team if I just gloss over this? What does it say to the people that have been respectful, that are respectful to me? And then they're like, wow, she can speak like that and still be okay. So it's not as simple as we just move on. That can't happen. I mean, there's got to be an addressing of some sort that happens so that the team is aware that there's consequences to that type of behavior.
And I think that for me, it's like I would want to get down to the bottom of if you think by me asking, what is your preference? Right? Like, it's one thing if he'd come at it like, you will work, and she's like, he is doing the absolute right, generous thing, and she takes that and throws it in his face. And so that to me would say, what do you think it is about me that you wouldn't give me the benefit of the doubt that I was actually trying to do something nice? Like, do you have thoughts about me? And have you been harboring these thoughts that you think I don't listen to the team, that I'm all for myself only? Like, where did that come from? And so I think I would start with a conversation with her and just be like, and of course when she gets back, and then just finding a time in the day. I don't think I'd prep her for it. I think I would just be like, hey, I need, we're going to have a meeting.
Yeah.
And then just say, what was that? Mm-hmm. Do you realize that was highly disrespectful? Do you realize that was unacceptable, that it hurt my feelings? Like, I want to know, like, clearly if you've got that much angst,
animosity.
Yeah, something is going on. Mm-hmm. Like, have you not been forthcoming with me? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then if it depends on that answer, obviously, but if it's like, oh no, I was just super stressed at home, whatever, and it has nothing to do with you. Okay, well then what are we doing to rectify this? Because that is not okay. And that is not okay in front of the eyes of the team. You will be written up. Mm-hmm. I want your thoughts on how you want to move forward here.
Yeah.
And then if she comes back with like, no, it is you. Okay, then what are you doing? Is this your resignation? Where are we going from here?
Yeah.
As far as what she should do for the rest of the team to know, I don't know if the team just knowing that you're having that conversation and meeting with her is enough to let the team know that you didn't just let it
slide.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, short of, I think if she came and like apologized to me in front of the team, I think that would be equally awkward. Right. It may seem staged and put on. So I don't know. Or if you're saying, that can never happen again. And frankly, you are very abrasive and aggressive, and you need to work on that. Because today it was me, tomorrow it might be Sally.
Somebody else, yeah.
I need you to know that is not okay. So you really need to think about your role in this practice and whether you want to be here or not.
Yeah.
And if you do, then we've got to be okay with that. And we've got to see your actions accordingly. And hopefully I think one of two things is going to happen. Either she's going to be like, F you, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And there's your answer. And that looks good for the team too, because that's like, I did not tolerate this and we got the weed out.
Right.
Maybe they've all wanted her out. Maybe they've all suspected her bullying. Like, if she's going to bully the doctor, what else is she doing that you're unaware of?
Right.
Or she's going to be like, oh crap, I better get my act together.
Yeah.
That was not okay. That is not, and he's not going to be okay with me talking to him that way or my fellow coworkers. Like, I'm being written up about this, and that's that.
I think that's a good point. I feel like there's one of two reactions. It's either, no, this just revealed that I can't stand my doctor and I'm out and I'm unwilling to make the changes necessary, or I'm going to blame shift and say it's all him and not me, or this, I'm eating humble pie and I recognize I made a huge mistake. And to me, it's one of those two camps.
Yeah.
There can't be an in-between of just glossing over this and pretending it didn't happen. There's something there that needs to be uncovered. And I think this is where we go back to uncomfortable conversations. This is a highly uncomfortable conversation, but I think it's one that has to be had.
And I think he needs to be careful too not to, because I could just imagine her going, well, I was stressed and my husband this and I couldn't feed my kids and blah, blah, blah. So I was just stressed. everybody was stressed. I'm not okay with that. That is not a equal reaction, whatever the word is, right? Like the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Right.
There's more here. And then at the very least, if that's the thing, then do you need stress management? Do you need to go find a counselor to get your stress out? Because I will not have you taking it out on me or the team.
Right. Right. Yeah, drawing that line in the sand, like this cannot happen going forward. And whether that's, just the expectation this can never happen again, or is there something underlying stress management, anger management, whatever that needs to happen in order for you to continue on the team? So I agree with you. I think I was stressed out and I just lashed out in that stress. Well, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, because nobody else lashed out.
Right.
So he needs to remind her that nobody else lashed out. He didn't lash out. And he's dealing with all of these things. He's got to not only keep his team happy, but meet the needs of his patients. Because the patients are going to be the same way.
Yes.
What do you mean I need to come in for my cleaning? I'm blah, blah, blah. What do you mean you're not going to deliver my crown? Like, he's dealing with it on all ends.
All sides, yeah.
And he's not lashing out.
Yeah.
So you need to check yourself.
Yeah.
Or check yourself out, one or the other. I think the fact that he's got you I think he needs to have the conversation with her soon, be very direct, and hear what she has to say. And if she's kind of waffling and waffling, or if she's like, no, you're right, whatever, maybe then you be the secondary. A few days later, you're checking in going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, are you off the team?
Yeah.
And this is where, for me, I deflect on to you, where I'm just like, Bethany, can you follow up? Like, maybe there's things that she's not telling me. See if you can dig further, and maybe you can be the one to say, like, this is not normal, ma'am.
Right. Right. And it could be, if there are situations where she does in general disrespect, then I do think the valid question to ask is, what are you doing to grow your respect for others in general, but especially your boss? Or if you can't grow that respect, you can't be in this office. If you don't have a general respect for others, but especially your doctor, then this is not the place for you. Go find somewhere where you can find somebody that you respect. So I do think that's an important self-evaluation that she needs to do.
Yeah.
So yeah. How's
Yucky.
that for...
Poor guy.
I know.
That stinks.
I know, right? In the middle, I feel really bad for him in that situation, because that's already a highly stressful situation. And then to essentially have some after storm activity.
Adult temper tantrum.
Yeah.
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 Do you have a third, like, what would, you had some examples of other clients.
So one other, I think that would be helpful here is team members responding to leadership changes. Because I do feel like this is pretty common. We've got a strong leader on the team that then goes off somewhere else, moves into a different field, or we have a change of leadership type. If anybody's listened to the podcast for any period of time, I love leadership teams. I love how it disperses the weight to various individuals. And so I've got a client that his office manager had a baby. We thought she was coming back. She ended up deciding to stay home. And so we were faced with the dilemma of, do we then go on the search for another office manager to bring in, or do we have some people on the team that exhibit leadership qualities? And we decided that there was people on the team that could be team leads. So it was a very new model. He's never had a team leadership model before. And now it's taken people who were coworkers and it's kind of shifted them into leads in a very accountability type way. And so there was quite obviously some resistance to that. And I think people feeling out, like...
Resistance to the people being asked to move up, or resistance from the rest of the team going, oh wait, now she's kind of my boss.
Exactly. That one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And just adjusting to that, like, am I okay with her now being my boss in some ways? And so I think there's a period of transition where the team is trying to figure out, like, how serious is this? Are they actually my leads? Should I actually do what they tell me to do? And thankfully, these three people they're not going to be the ones that are like, I am boss now, so let's have some fun with this. No, we picked three amazing people that deserve this leadership and are going to treat it very respectfully and not try to create drama. Like, it's three really good people. And so I think the question then becomes, how do you reinforce these people as lead without creating unnecessary drama? But also, how do you clearly put it to the team, like, no, this is serious. Like, these actually are your new leads. Like, there's a certain level of respect that you need to have for that. How would you handle that transition?
So I think I have multiple thoughts here in terms of to set the leads up for success. I'm hoping Doc either sets up coaching stuff with you or gives them books or podcasts to listen to. I think ADOM, we've talked about that before, Association of Dental Office Managers, something like, they've got a lot of great things on there, but they need to be making sure that they've got the tools they need to think about things differently. I think I mentioned a few episodes ago that I took one of our team members to a practice growth seminar with me because she has been interested in, she said, I'd love to be a leader someday. And my thought was, but okay, nobody's going to take you seriously if you're the one how can you hold other people accountable for being on time when you're not on time?
Right.
How can you hold other people to be accountable for showing up when you call in a lot?
Right.
How can you, when you're making the comment that stirs the pot, how can you, so opening her eyes to what does a leader really mean? In this case, if these three ladies have accepted the role, do they really know what the role entails? Because it is hard. And I remember with our office manager years ago when she was almost like, because she came in going, I want to be an office manager. And about a year into it was like, whoa, I don't like being the bad guy because I'm supposed to be friends with these people. And now I've got to enforce things and it's making my personal relationships with these people different. So they need to recognize that that's going to happen. Even down to, this, I think I've mentioned it once a long time ago, but I am a huge fan of America's Sweethearts, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Yes.
And I was devastated when that show got off the air. Well, they have a documentary now for the 2023 season.
Oh,
the
wow.
7-part episode thing on Netflix. I'm almost done, and I'm so sad because I'm probably gonna watch it again. I just love my DCC cheerleaders. And the leader on there, she's a 5-year veteran and now she's kind of the main lead. And she even said in the episode I watched the other day, it's different being the leader because one, you've got to be hitting all the expectations yourself so that the team knows you're not,
she's my example.
Yeah. And you're practicing what you're preaching, but also, you're supposed to be their friend and their teammate, but yet you're also getting onto them when the time's right. And how do you do that effectively? So she herself was going through these oh gosh, this is different. It's not easy being a leader.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, I hope he's setting those three up with courses or things like that they could be doing to help themselves
grow their leadership.
Yeah. Grow their leadership. I think that's another one that our team leads right now. Over the years, we've spent a lot of efforts, time, money, energy in Southwest Dental Conference. I don't put them in hygiene classes or technical scientific classes. I'm putting them in the how do you communicate? How do you, because that's an ever evolving situation as well.
Yeah.
So I hope they're doing that.
Yeah.
I think for the team members to really get on board with it, I think that's all going to come from the doctor, and it's got to be when something is not followed. Mm-hmm. So say he's put Shelley in charge of the RDAs, and now Mary is like, I'm not doing whatever, and Mary comes and bypasses Shelley and comes straight to the doctor. I think that's where the doctor needs to go, hold on a minute, I'm going to pull Shelley in.
Yeah.
And Mary's going to be like, what the hell? This is about Shelley, or this has nothing to do with Shelley. This is my own. And before I could come to you directly, and now you're dodging me. I think that's where he's going to have to be ready to go, oh, no, I'm not dodging you. I just want this to be a think tank because this is how I've handled it before. but I'm not the best person to. And that's when Jenny was here. Jenny would handle it. And I'm kind of newer to this too. So I want us all to kind of know what's happening here. And like really putting Shelley kind of like that way. That's kind of the softball where he's not just punting it to Shelley directly. He's still involved.
But he's bringing her into the conversation.
Yes. And then that way they're all three powwowing together and coming up with the solution together. And eventually it will be they're going to go to Shelley more.
Yes.
And or maybe sometimes even do have the opposing opinion.
Yeah.
And then let Shelley be the advocate for the team member. And the doctor, I'm not saying put on or fake it, but I'm just saying like if there's something where you're like, this is going to be unpopular, you know what? Shelley, come on in here. And so come here. What do y'all think about this? And Shelley's going to be like, actually, it's not fair for you to ask us to come in at 6:15 every morning when it's always been 6:45. And the doc going, okay, well, I'll think about it. You know, and then like, okay, Shelley advocated for you guys. So he's got to look for opportunities to really make sure
Boost them as well.
Yeah, that he's giving them opportunities to shine. Yeah. So that they're not always just delivering bad news or being the bad guy. Because I think that's easy. That's easy for us to not go, oh, now I don't have to talk to you about that. Shelley, hey, go get on to Mary about this.
Right.
But we also need to think about it from the other side. Where can I set Shelley up to look like the good guy?
Yes. I think that's a really good point.
And I think maybe even the team all together kind of going, hey, you know, our team leads, we're trying to set them up for success. So I'm taking them to the dental conference. They're going to take these communication classes.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to, so that y'all can see how this is not easy either.
Yeah.
And really kind of, I think the doctor is going to gain so much more as well for their own growth and mental health to go, I'm not alone in this. Like, this is a think tank and I'm going to take advantage of the team that I'm helping grow.
Yeah.
But by investing in that, they're going to help me grow because now they can see the challenges from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those are really good. Really good.
That's just trial and error on my own part here.
It is. And this is something that you've done for a long time as you've built kind of this, as you've transitioned through leadership models and then built your leadership team. I think you're speaking the strategies that you've used along the way. And
I, you know, and errors I've made where I've, you know, kind of hidden behind the bulldog in the office because I don't like to be the bad guy. And she says one thing and then I'm like, you know what, that's not really fair because they think it's coming from her. So I've had to step up and say, by the way, if you think she's being, you know, being too mean about enforcing the time that we start huddle and the time y'all need to be here, that's not coming from her.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, that's coming from me. And so I need y'all there at this time, and this is why I'm doing that. And by the way, she advocated for you. Do you think we would have this system in place if it was left to me?
Right.
Oh, no, I'm not doing all that extra work. I'm going to let that, okay, forget it. No bonus for anybody. No 401k for anybody. No health benefits for anybody because that's a lot of work and I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
She does that for you guys. And when you don't put in your hours right or you don't do whatever and I'm sitting here going, nope, not my problem. She's like, no. Don't forget this person this. Don't forget that person's do that. I was like, she advocates for you guys. And I don't do enough of that, I think.
Yeah.
And so I have to remind myself constantly to like, when she has been successful with not being the mean bulldog, when she's been the nice bulldog, have I
put a spotlight on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are really good tips. So.
Okay. So the theme here kind of is this vibe of the doctor feeling kind of disrespected maybe, or drama or heat on them from team members. And so, I think you had another example you were mentioning, and I was hoping you'd bring it up now in case anybody else is dealing with.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty common example that happens anytime the doctor is trying to make change in the practice. Nobody likes change. Nobody does. But it can be amplified if there is a person on the team that's prone to negative talk. And so what can happen, I think I'm maybe oftentimes the instigator of this opportunity for negativity because the doctor brings me in to hopefully support the team, make changes.
It's me. You. The problem is me. Yeah, it's you. And why are they getting mad at the doctor? It's kind of like insurance. Why are you mad at the doctor? It's the insurance company. It's not. It's me. It's Bethany.
Blame that dang consultant that I hired. What was I thinking? So oftentimes change happens in the consulting process. We're shaking things up in a good way. And I would say a lot of times the team is on board with that. But every once in a while you'll have a team member that's not on board with that. So then the doctor has a situation where it's either clearly evident that the person is opposed to this. I smile when I say that because there's been a few scenarios that I've been in that have been overwhelmingly awkward, as the person is very visually showing me that they are disengaged with this consulting process. But it sometimes will show up very evidently. Most oftentimes it is behind the scenes negativity. I've got one client in particular that I'm thinking about that in the moment, the full team seems like, yes, we're on board. Let's do this. Go team, go. And then I'll get messages from him, honestly, even the day that I leave the practice, and he'll be like, by the way, I got inside knowledge that this was said. And so I think that's where we need a dialogue on what a doctor can do in a situation where a team member is resisting change, is overtly negative about change, like very clear to the doctor, or even behind the scenes is kind of weaving these negative messages. What would you do in those situations?
I think for one, my one piece of advice is for the doctor, stand your ground, I guess. Again, if you don't believe in the change yourself, then why are you moving forward? And I think then that goes back to, I've never had you give me stupid advice, right? Obviously I trust what you say because it works. And so a lot of times if I'm kind of like, Bethany, what are you talking about here? Or the Delta drop was a perfect example. I am completely clueless and petrified of this process, but I'm the one who started it, first of all. So it's like, okay, I created this mess, but how can I most successfully get through? Is it going to be perfect? No. So get my expectation in line, but I did it for a reason. And then I reached out to you. You supported my choice and you helped figure out how we were going to navigate this. We got so much pushback from so many different people on the team. And if I had just said, okay, fine, never mind, we're not going to do this. Yeah. Actually, Delta, don't drop us. Is that what I want? And if that's what you want, then go ahead, but then quit pissing and moaning about the things you don't like about being a part of Delta. You know what I mean? But no, there was a reason for this. So almost the concept of going back to your why, why did you do that? Why do you think we need this change? And a lot of times it may not be you. You might be like, God, I can't stand this, but the state board is making me do X, Y, Z. Yeah. So whatever, there's got to be a reason. And then at that point, then knowing that you're trying something and you might figure out the pitfalls as you're going along. But then, have each other's back, I guess is my point. And so if you've hired Bethany, the biggest waste of your money is if you're not going to do anything Bethany tells you to do. You're wasting Bethany's time, you're wasting your time, you're creating a lot of frustration for no reason. So the question has to be, do you believe in this change? And then are you surrounding yourself with people who have the same vision as you do? If the vision is we don't want to drop Delta, or we don't want to comply with the state board rules, and we're okay with getting in trouble and doctor losing their license, yeah, we're okay with that. Oh, yeah, I'm okay with that too. Let's go forth, right? So you've all got to be on the same page with that. And then I think at that point, the weeds in the system, you've got to go and figure out who is the actual weed who's preventing this and why. And most of the time it's because they don't agree with it because it probably means more work for them or something they don't believe in. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, if we don't believe in the same things, this isn't a good fit anymore. Yeah. And I deserve to have a team that believes in me and helps, carry my vision forward. And you believe you deserve to have an office that matches your belief system. Yeah. So I think that where, if I hear this person's kind of complaining undercurrent, I tend to be like, speak up, say it to my face. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this in a team meeting. I've heard you mention this. And sometimes I'll call that person out, right there in a team meeting and be like, hey, I don't know who it was that said this, but I've heard this. So can we clarify that? Does anybody know? What is the concern? Or if I do know it's that person, sometimes I'll pull them specifically and be like, hey, what is it? No, I'm on board. No, you're not, because when we went to go do this step, you clearly went and did you continue to grab that form, or you continued to not grab the right form. So what is it? Because I know you're trained on it. We've all talked about it. You're still refusing to get this form. And at that point, it's no, it's not that I'm refusing. I just keep forgetting. And this is what I'm going to do to remember. Okay, so you're good? Do you understand? Or do you need me to explain more? Or should we have a dialogue? Like, I can tell you're not on board with this. So tell me what I'm missing. I'm a direct, like, I want to hear it from you. So you know that your mutterings, A, are noticed, B, are not going to be tolerated. You got something to say, you come say it. And quit messing up everybody else's mindset. And then, sometimes too, they could clarify something for me. We're like, well, it's not going to work because of this, this, this. Well, why didn't you say that? Exactly. Can we tweak this part of it? Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay, then. Thank you. So I think communication. You've got to dialogue with it and don't ignore it.
I think that's such a key point, that noticing the mutterings, right? So even if they're trying to hide those behind the scene, and you become aware of those just by listening, or you may have an informant on your team that tells you some of these things. However you're coming about the information, you're bringing it to the light, because I can't tell you how valuable just that piece of advice is. It would nip a lot of things in the bud if we were willing to bring those things out to the light. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't know how to bring it up without throwing Susie under the bus. But the way that you just said it is like, hey, it's become evident to me that this is a theme that I keep hearing. This is this negative muttering. This is the theme I keep hearing. We're going to open up the floor. Let's talk about it. And pushing your team to kind of bring it out into the open. This is not behind the scenes conversation anymore. This is out in the open. And then I think you've got to be careful with how you handle that. If it is in a team meeting setting, you can't be like, well, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You just need to get in alignment, because then nobody's ever going to bring anything up. So I think we've got to go, okay, I appreciate us openly dialoguing about it. I'm going to take this and think about it. I may follow up with a person or two, but this is how I want the conversation to happen going forward. If you don't agree with something, or if you feel negative about something that we've just talked about, this is the avenue that I want it brought up in. We have a staff meeting every 2 weeks. I give you an opportunity to bring up your concerns. There's clearly at the end of every meeting, there's time for y'all to bring up concerns. Going forward, no conversation happens behind the scenes that's negative. It needs to happen here. And so you draw the boundary for that, and then you can go behind. You've given yourself a path to go behind and meet with those people individually and bring it more clearly to that particular person, but it's opened up first.
So, and I think a couple of things with that is, one, like, I usually will say, okay, because I'm hearing this and I don't understand it. Like, so do we need more clarification, or do we need, and then if I'm met with crickets, then I kind of go, okay, well, clearly I'm hearing something, so it needs to stop. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not voicing your opinion here, that's fine. I need you to come find me by tomorrow.
Right.
Or I need you to reach out to Bethany. Like, clearly something is not sitting well, and I need to explore why it's not sitting well. Because you may have a valid point that I've not thought of. Or you may disagree. And so we need to dialogue so that we're all on the same page. But if I don't hear back from anyone by, lunch tomorrow, I'm going to assume we've all figured it out and we're moving forward and we're not going to have this issue anymore. And that almost always solves it. And then I forgot the other point I was going to make. So let's keep talking, and then maybe I'll think of it.
Well, I mean, honestly, that was kind of the main example, is negative mutterings with change, either one person, a full team, and how to address that. So to me, our key takeaways are: don't let it lie. Do not let it stay behind the scenes, because it'll end up being a cancer that eats the whole team up. Address it, whether that's individually or whether that's in a team meeting. Address it very clearly. Hear that person, listen, but then draw some boundaries for how those opinions need to be shared going forward, and that you expect them to get in alignment on the changes.
I know what I was going to say was, this is where it's helpful when you know your team. Mm-hmm. If you've done your personalities, you guys have all talked before, and you know your team, you can almost guess who the person is that's having a problem. And so that way you could maybe go up to that person and say, okay, Sally, you're the one who's always opposed to change. Is this coming from you? Mm-hmm. Or even before you bring it out in the team meeting, Sally, I need to talk to you for a minute. I'm hearing these mutterings. Is it you? Like, do you have something to say to me? Like, let's talk about it right now. And if you can have those respectful conversations, or if you can say, okay, like, clearly, if there's something I'm missing, then I need to know. So please, like, bring it forward. But you've got to be the person who's got that open door if you're going to say that.
And knowing your team well enough, if you know you're about to roll out a change, and Sally is always negative about change no matter what, talk to Sally ahead of time about the change. Now, you got to be careful with that, because if Sally is one that kind of runs her mouth and you really want this element of excitement and surprise, Sally can potentially ruin that for you in advance. So you got to be careful with the timing of it. Maybe if you've got a team meeting scheduled at lunch, the first 10 minutes, you save that for, hey, Sally, I need to have a conversation with you. I want to give you a heads up because I know in the moment you can struggle with some of these change conversations. So I want you to know in advance so you got time to process. And it's a reminder to me to remind you that I expect your support. I expect positive comments that are being said in the team meeting and positive comments that are after it. Are we good? You ready to do this team meeting? Okay, great, let's go. Because some people are just, no matter what, they're averse to change right away. And their body language shows it. And so if you can give her a preamble to the actual meeting, then it may give her time to adjust her face and her body language to look accepting of the change in the meeting. So I think that's another good takeaway as well. Awesome. Thanks for the episode.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.